Hello guys and girls and fellow Keyblade wielders, welcome to another video. And this time I'm going to be making the epic, elusive, mysterious and majestic, the one and only, the Master of Masters. Alright, so to start off I'm going to use a pre-existing figure as a base. I got this big selection of 50 figures for just £10. You can find really good deals if you look on places like eBay or try charity shops. This guy looks really useful for another project, so he's out. My buddy Aquaman over here is also a little bit short. He's also made from a really hard plastic, so he's also out. This guy has some really interesting articulation. His face might even be usable if painted, and his armor is really cool, so I think I'll save him for another project. So for now, buddy, you're out. Now, Headless John Cena here is actually quite useful. He has a really good stance. The only problem is this crazy arm of his, which he just keeps very close to his chest and will not let go of it for any unfathomable reason. So this is an issue, and for this I can't use him. Sorry, Headless John Cena. These two figures I think are usable though. I did have my eye on them from the beginning, but it's always good to test out other ideas because something might actually work out better than you expected. So after getting quite a good feel for the figures and thinking what will work and what won't work, I've decided to use certain bits from each one. So I'm going to be using John Cena's hands, Mysterious Tall Guy's torso and arms, and John Cena's legs for the wider looking stance, which I think fits more in character with the Master of Masters after looking at photos of him for a long time. So bring on the chopping board. I know this one's a bit grubby, but if you can guess what this spray painted mark is, I'll be really impressed. I'll give you a clue, it's from another really popular franchise. To start with, I'm going to cut off John Cena's hands. That sounds and seems really wrong, but I'm still sure he'll be able to smack people down without them. Guy's hench. Now, cutting off these plastic hands is actually really easy. You just have to put a lot of pressure and a downwards motion. But I just want to say be careful with knives, otherwise you can end up with really gnarly scars like this one because I was stupid. I had to be in A&E for 4 hours, which really isn't fun when your finger's just bleeding everywhere. But it ended up alright. But yeah, seriously, knives are dangerous. Now I'm going to cut him in half. I think there are lots of easier ways to do this than the way that I decided to do it. I used my rotary tool, but I do think that if you just heated up the figure with a hairdryer, then you could just pull him in two, which is actually what I did for the second one. This was a lot easier, quicker and less messy. So basically just ignore what I do here because it's stupid. This is literally me realising this and realising how pointless that all was and getting out the hairdryer. Yay, now that he's in 2 bits, it's time to remove his hands as well. Now I'm going to use the hairdryer again to heat up his head. This softens up the plastic and makes it really easy to remove. It doesn't get too hot, but just be careful of your fingers if you do this. Now I have all my basic parts, I'm going to use my rotary tool to sand down the areas that are way too thick. These guys are buff, so this can take a while. This is why it'd be better to use figures that are thinner, but I just don't have the money to afford decent figures for that kind of thing. I got these figures really cheap, so that's the reason why I use them. But if you can afford thinner figures, I would definitely recommend that instead. Don't worry if you get holes or anything like that. At this point, it doesn't matter what the figure looks like underneath, as this is all going to be covered with clay anyway. Here I'm realizing that the Master of Masters could use a tiny bit more height in his torso area. So to do this, I'm going to use a piece of metal wire, glue gun, and then wrap it in silk clay. This is my first time ever using silk clay. I've never even seen the product before, so I got it just for this and to test it out. Turns out I actually really like it and would definitely use it again. Not sponsored at all, but if you want to sponsor me, please do. I really like your product, and for some reason it smells really good. Here I'm just filling in some of the cracks and holes with the glue gun. Now I'm using silk clay again to make a head. This doesn't have to have any details in whatsoever because unfortunately we've never seen the Master of Masters' face. Now his head's on, it's time to stick his hands on. I needed to shorten the arms a tiny bit, but I'm going to use super glue to stick the hands on. I did actually try a glue gun, but it wasn't really strong enough and secure enough to hold it in place. I think super glue is going to be fine for this, but only use a tiny amount as it goes really far. Okay, great. Now he's the height I want him to be. Now I'm going to sandpaper the whole thing, and then I'm going to gently wash the whole figure to get rid of any oils that might make it hard to paint. Now I've sprayed the whole figure in a primer paint. I'll wait for that to dry, and then I'm going to paint the whole thing black. After that, it's time to make the clothes. I'm going to use my new friend silk clay for this. It dries with a hard rubber texture, so I think it's really perfect for these clothing. I've used different materials in the past, but this seems to be the best thing I've used so far. The clay cuts really nicely and it's really easy to use. I'm just shaping it around the figure as if it were a material. Calm down, Yuffie. I said material, not materia. I'm smoothing any bits down that are lumpy with this cool cake tool. Could have used a crafting tool, but there you go. Don't worry too much about lumps though, because it just adds to the fabric's texture anyway. Unlike Sora, it's not going to be perfect. Next I'm going to cut out a piece for the torso and then a piece for the backso. I don't know what the opposite of a torso is, but I don't think it's a backso. I guess it's just the back. Yeah, the back. I don't need to use any glue when putting the pieces of clay together, which is another really useful feature of the silk clay. It just sticks to itself, which makes it really easy to use. Next I'm cutting out some smaller pieces for the sleeves. I've decided already on the positions that I want the arms in, but this is the moment to do that if you haven't, as it will set hard and they will be fixed in place. I used to like making figures that could be articulated, but then I realised they just looked really amateur, so making them in this way where they're just posed, it just turns out a lot better. I had an image in my head of the Master of Masters holding the Book of Prophecies against his chest, so this is what I'm going with the second arm, and that's why I chose the fist for this arm. Yay, this is all finished, and this is 24 hours later when it's fully hardened. I'm really impressed with how hard the material's gone. It's literally perfect for what I'm trying to do. So using silk clay has turned out to be a really big success, and I'll definitely be using it again. In fact, the day that I'm recording this, I actually went to the shop and bought some more. I literally can't get enough of silk clay. Now the fun part of painting the whole thing in black. Now I'm rolling out a piece to make the hood. Not gonna lie, this bit was really difficult and took a lot of trying. But in the end it turned out okay, I think. I'm pretty happy with how it's come out. It seems to have some characteristics of the Master of Masters in, so that's as good as I can get really. Now I just need to paint the hood. While the figure's drying, I'm going to make a really simple book of prophecies. And when I say simple, I mean super simple. I'm cutting out a printout I have of the book, and then I'm just going to score along and fold it into a book shape. I'm then going to use the tiny piece of cardboard to help build up the spine. Yay, this is the first time the Mod Podge is out. And you get all the satisfaction of knowing it's a brand new bottle. Now I'm using more cardboard to create a firm structure. Now I'm going to make some pages for the inside of the books just from plain paper. Now the Book of Prophecies is drying, I'm going to cut out 2 gazing eye keyblades and stick them together. This didn't give the best effect ever, so I'd probably do something different next time, but with how quickly I wanted to get this project done, I just went with this method. Here's the Master of Master fully dried. Now it's time for the fiddliest thing ever, where I'm going to use these tiny beads to create a zip. I was expecting this to take hours, but I actually got it done remarkably quickly. I used some tiny metal beads on a thread to create the details that are on the top of the robe. Also, I'm sorry for the plasters, I'd hurt my fingers at this point. I've used 2 tiny bits of thread with silk clay on the end of them to make the tassels on the cloak. And now I just need to paint those silver. I realised the lid to the Mod Podge was actually really useful when I used it to make a zip. Now I'm working on the mysterious black box. I really want to know what's inside it. What do you think's in the black box? I kind of think it's the Master of Masters' heart, but that is a bit far-fetched. What else do you think it could be? Now that I've painted the box black, I added some more details with paints and pens, and I also added 2 handles on with more silk clay. And that's it, that's all the Master of Masters accessories. Now it's time to see everything together, so roll the beauty shots. So there he is, all finished. Thank you so much if you watched this video. It took me so much longer and so much more effort than I was expecting. I literally don't know how YouTubers do it. People are so talented, it's unreal. But let me know what you think of the figure and if you're going to make your own. I'd love to see it if you do. And let me know which figures you'd like to see next. I'm really leaning towards doing the foretellers. I think they'll look really cool on a display altogether. Thank you to the awesome music that I used. The links are down in the description. Feel free to check them out. You probably already have if you're a Kingdom Hearts fan. And most importantly of all, have a wonderful day and may your heart be your guiding key.